Thanks for coming on today, Sarah. It's great to connect with you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was just learning a little bit about of what you had on your page on LinkedIn, and you were Army veteran, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then now you've um, gone into financial assistance, and is that working primarily with veterans as well?
Yeah, I like to focus the majority of my not necessarily attention. Um, Really, I want to make sure that my brothers and sisters in the military community understand that we have more options than what we're told when it comes to planning for our retirement. Especially when you're going to retire, you're going through all of the paperwork, and they start talking to you about survivor benefits. And, this is something that you need for your spouse in the event that you prematurely die. And when my husband went through this process a little over a year ago, actually, it's been almost 2 years, it blew my mind that the amount of money that they wanted us to pay into the spousal benefits program. And then they expected me and our three children, in the event that we lost him, to survive on a quarter of what he was making in the Army.
Holy cow.
It was insulting. It was a joke.
Yeah.
And I always seem to end up in a role that allows me to apply that knowledge later for us or for other people. And I had started in this position. And when he was telling me that he was going through all of the retirement steps and they were talking to him about survivor benefits, I was like, absolutely not. Do not sign that paperwork. I can get a better spousal benefits, so to speak. It's life insurance. Um, at a much better rate, and you're covered with a significantly bigger amount, and there's a ton of benefits on top of it. Don't sign that paperwork.
Mm.
And what's funny is the individual that was going through the paperwork with him told him specifically that if you can get something else somewhere else that's at a better option, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but don't sign the paperwork, decline it. So at least I
Wow.
know there are people out there trying to let veterans know, like, hey, look, you do have more options. This isn't your only option. You don't have to sign this.
Well, is it just the usual government bureaucracy that makes it so bad? Um, or is there like an underlying issue that couldn't be resolved?
No, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head that it is more of that bureaucracy because there are a lot of programs that are developed specifically for military personnel and veterans that are not available to civilians. And a lot of them are really, really great.
Mm.
But some of them are not as great. And we do have other options, but because we're told so many times throughout our military career, this is all you have, this is all you have, there's no other options, it's this or nothing. You get used to it and you just take what the Army hands out or the Marines or whatever the branch is.
I was curious because I was chatting with a lady um, a few weeks ago, and she works with helping veterans get assistance from the VA, because that's kind of like a nightmare right now.
Oh yeah.
Um, and she was telling me about all the loops and things you have to go through to like actually get something. And um, yeah, it seems like there's this common problem where, you know, you go into the Army or the Navy and you do a great job, you do have your best, and then afterwards they kind of forget about you. And so it's really sad to see. Um, but it's also exciting to see how much stuff is coming out now that can actually address those issues.
Yeah, I think most people who have never been in and have never served don't realize that we're expendable and they treat us like we're expendable. They
Hmm.
use us up, and then once we're used up and we can't be used anymore, we're tossed aside because the next generation is coming in to be used. And we don't care. They don't care that we have all of these significant issues from our service and feeling the need to serve for our country. And then when we are done with our service and we have, physical issues or mental issues, whether it's PTSD and TBIs and things like that, it's taken them, I don't know how many years to get on the ball of, oh, we might want to treat them. Because how many veterans were having difficulties with their PTSD or with their mental state and weren't able to get any help, and so they were taking things into their own hands.
Hmm. Yeah, no, especially like, um, I know as just being civilian, I have a lot of friends that have served or their families have, and you hear about some of the stories, you just feel so sad because like I don't think many of us know what's actually going on. I think that's one of the things like that's been awesome with Trump being back in office and all of his team is like they're actually showing you what's going on because no one reports about it. You never hear the stories until usually it's too late, and then you're like, oh no, what can we do now? But it's like a lot of these things could be very preventative or
Yeah,
prevent. Yeah. So.
they're trying. I agree. Like, we've talked about Andy Frisella and Ed Milet and some of the things that they say. And Andy has said a couple of things that I agree with, in that Trump is not being transparent enough. He is not doing enough of the things that he said he was going to do.
Mm.
And we're all waiting because he hasn't done the things that he said. And his approval rating is going down, but it's not because people have decided that they don't like him. It's because he's not doing enough of the things that he said he was going to do. If he would just step forward and do those things, his approval rating would go right back up because that's what we voted for.
Mm. Are you thinking of like releasing the files, or what were you thinking of
Um,
specifically?
Releasing the files, removing all of the criminals that have managed to come into our country, um, the federal jobs that are being audited essentially, which I think is hilarious because I was a federal civilian and I know for
Oh.
a fact there is a large amount of people in that sector that don't do anything except sit there and collect a paycheck.
Mm, that's the
It's
truth.
awful.
Yeah.
I had to prove to the military men and women that I served with on this when I was on the civilian side and I was working alongside people who were active duty, that I was actually doing my job. I had to prove myself over and over again because people looked at me and go, "Oh, you're just another civilian."
Oh.
Which is frustrating because I've been
Yeah.
in their position where I was waiting on a civilian to do their job so I could do my job. I wasn't about to be that person for the people that I was working with.
Right. Mm. Yeah, I wonder how many like things they have to untangle, because there's so much corruption. Because I feel like he's trying, and then it's like, he says, we'll get rid of the illegals, and then a judge comes along and stonewalls that, and then he's like, well, we got to do it, and then Supreme Court comes in and stonewalls it, and you're like, oh, it's like I don't understand why so many, well, I guess I do understand, but some of the uppers just go along with all of the tyranny so often. And you hope that you're like, okay, guys, can't we at least have like some freedom again? But that's hard
I
fought.
think when you get into that thought process, you have to remember that the people that are going along with all of this stuff that seems so messed up, they're either profiting
Yeah.
or they've been blackmailed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that too.
Those, in my mind, are the only two reasons why you would do something that is morally wrong and irreprehensible versus, oh, I'm profiting. I don't care who I'm hurting. So
Yeah, do you follow James O'Keefe? Have you heard of him?
I've heard of him. I don't know that I actually follow him.
Okay. Um, he's he's had a long story of lots of things he's uncovered, but he's a guy that will go in and like plant a camera and like ask questions from like a higher up in a company or the government, and they'll
Okay,
kind of spill the beans. And
interesting.
yeah, he's done a lot to like uncover some crazy things. Um, but yeah, he did one on BlackRock, and the BlackRock guy was saying like, "Oh yeah, we buy senators off all the time." And so it makes so much sense when you hear it from the lion's mouth of what's actually happening. You're like, oh. And the thing is, it's like you look at some of the paychecks these people are bought off with, and you're like, that's hardly anything. So it's like it's so easy to like just flip the switch in someone's mind, I think, and then they go against what they were running on or thought you would think they'd want to do for you. But yeah,
I think it's disgusting how our senators, who are supposed to be public servants, are being bought and traded like this.
I know. It'd be interesting if we could go back to the process like the founding fathers where it was, I forget how many days in Congress it was a year, but now it's like they're just there sitting in a chair all day long. It's like there's not that much to do. It's like
Now,
if you could just keep it, because like all of our problems in the country are when we deviate from the Constitution. It's like
self-created,
yeah, so it's like if we just keep go back to that, we probably eliminate like 80% of our major problems right now.
possible, yeah. I like the idea of going back to that original thought process of the founding fathers, having smaller term limits for these career politicians. And
Hmm.
then when they go to vote for something, they need to put their money where their mouth is. If you're not going to vote for something, there needs to be a fist fight or something to prove that you're going to stand on what it is that you're voting for and why.
Yeah.
Prove your worth to your constituents. Prove your worth and why you believe in this, that you're willing to go to bat. And if you're for a war, someone from your family has to go because you're sending
Yeah.
sons and daughters of people that you don't know. So your family should be involved in that too. If you're voting to go to war and you're one of these warmongering people, cool. Let's pull people from your family and see how war positive and pro you are.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like as soon as they're not close to battle or someone they love is close to battle, they just think of people as numbers.
I think the majority of people in Congress and that are politicians are so disconnected from the everyday average person that they are voting on things or making things, laws or whatever, and they don't understand how it's actually affecting people. And I see these I don't know what to call them, influential people, I guess, that are saying, this is how you do this and this is how you do that. And if you can't do this, then, you're not made of the right stuff. Excuse me, sir. Have you ever struggled from paycheck to paycheck and you don't know how you're going to feed your family? No, then you should shut up because you don't know what the average person is struggling with, trying to figure out which bill you're going to pay this paycheck and which one you're going to have to skip and try and figure out how you're going to come back and pay it later.
Yeah, they have no clue really. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's like most of the best people stay out of politics is because they don't like being given things. It's like, um, most entrepreneurs, people ask them like, "Would you go into politics?" And I'm like, "No way!" Like, never want to go in there. So um, it's a struggle to figure out how we get good people in those leadership positions continuously. It's like we get a few here and there, and then
Yeah.
they get out, and then they can't make the changes they want to make because they're getting stonewalled from all the other problems. So it's like, yeah, I wonder how you could incentivize that type of spot for the person that we really want to be there? Like, yeah.
I That's a good thought. The word incentivize scares me though, because if you're incentivizing someone to do something, they're getting something out of it.
Mm,
And I'm not sure that's the right word I would use, because in my mind, the goal should be if you're going to be a public servant, you're there to better your community and you shouldn't get anything out of it other than a good feeling that you're making things better for your community.
that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, you want those selfless people
Right.
in that position. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's interesting time to be alive. It's been crazy. Like, you know, it was like 6 months ago we weren't sure where anything was gonna go, and then now
Yeah.
it's like,
Crazy.
yeah, we've had our first 100 days. Um, yeah, that's wild. I think actually on the election night, I was actually feeling sick before the election results came
That
in because
was
I
too.
was so scared. I was like, I don't know
Oh yeah.
what we're gonna do, you know?
It was like they're gonna try and steal it again. I was screenshotting the numbers because I was so afraid that something was gonna happen and they
Yeah,
were gonna come back and go, oh, he was never in the lead. Oh, he was never this. I wanted proof.
yeah, yeah,
I was terrified.
yeah. I was just like sitting there. I think because it was like 11:30 for me. Well, yeah, Mountain Time when Pennsylvania flipped, and I was like, oh my goodness, you know. And then that was so exciting because you have in your mind all those thoughts of like, well, how do you protect the family? How do you keep people safe? How do we make it, you know? And phew, so
Thankfully, that's something my husband and I have been discussing for years because we've seen this coming and um, I don't know if it's the training or if it's just how our minds work, but we've been able to kind of see specific patterns that are happening around the world and just kind of prepare for things. Before COVID hit, he had heard a couple of news stories here and there, and he looked at me and he goes, "This is going to be ugly." I was like, "What are you talking about? It's like Ebola that was in Texas and then it went away. It'll be fine." He's like, "No, this is going to be way worse." And he was dead on.
mm,
He's been right with a lot of that stuff. And so there's been a couple of times where the previous administration would say or do something, and I'm like, I need to start prepping. So I need to learn how to
yeah,
can. I need to go back to having my own chickens. I need to go back to
yeah,
processing my own meat.
mm,
I need to do all of these things, and we need to get hot, quick, and in a hurry because I don't trust what the outcome is going to be.
yeah. I think honestly that's one thing. Well, there's a lot of really good things that was came out of people's response to COVID, where we all were realizing we have to be much more self-sufficient. Which is really cool because now there's all of these like little startup companies on like um, healthy food, healthy snacks. Um, like there's this one company, um, they make tallow fried potato chips. So it's like you have like all these neat things coming out of because people realize, oh, it's all about to go away. Like if we did lose our freedom, then it's like we have to fight for it individually.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've definitely on the same wavelength of prepping. I was like actually I think 2 days before the election, I just went and bought a bunch of extra like gear because I didn't know what was going to happen. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know if I'm going to be able to buy this next week.
Yeah.
As I didn't know how fast things would flip or whatever. So because I had heard like UPS was like checking boxes if it had like ammo and stuff in it, and like I don't know if you heard about that, yeah.
No, I hadn't heard that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then well, a lot of all the credit card companies started tracking gun sales. So it was like people were like just go into the store and use a check. So it was getting kind of freaky. So yeah, I'm totally with you about the prepping idea of just like
Yeah. We
I don't
were,
have like a bunker or anything. I just have like
I mean, we don't either, but we definitely made sure that we had um things that would help us protect ourselves. All of our children have experience with every firearm and proper safety and all of the things. They don't have readily access to them, but they have experience with everything that we have, so that if it came down to it and they had to be handed something to protect themselves or each other, they knew how and properly
Mm,
and safely to do so.
that's awesome. Yeah. I think I was actually having a conversation the other day with some people, and I was kind of surprised at what they were saying, but not too surprised. Um, and they were saying that like, oh, we need to figure out a way to eliminate the potential for bad guys to have guns. And I was like, oh, no, don't fall for that
Criminals
problem.
will always find a way to criminal. Are you kidding me?
That's what I was trying to tell them. And I was like, look at Europe, they have no guns and they have terrible crime rates. So
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to tell them like the worst part in the US, Chicago, for gun violence is the place where there's no one carrying guns. So it's
Yeah,
like,
guns are illegal in Chicago, but how many murders happen every day? It's crazy.
yeah. So I was trying to convince them of that, but it's, just seeing how easily it is to program people because it's
Yep.
um, like the government is very good at telling you to stay away from dangerous things because they're dangerous. So you shouldn't have a race car because that's dangerous, or you shouldn't have a gun because that's dangerous, or you shouldn't go outside because that's dangerous. So it's like they eliminate all these potentials for danger and they like suffocate you with safety. In reality, all that is just another form of socialism. Um,
Yep.
but it's sad when your friends, you're like, oh no, don't fall for it. Don't fall into the mind trap,
I
happens.
learned a couple years ago when COVID hit and everybody was so brainwashed that you have to wear masks everywhere and you have to do this and go get the vaccine and go do this and go do that because if you don't, you're a grandma killer. I was like, whoa. First of all,
Yeah.
how about you worry about yourself and not worry about what other people are doing?
Hmm.
If you feel like what you're doing is keeping you safe, then great. If you feel like something that someone else is doing is not safe, you don't have to be around that person, but you also don't have the right to sit there and tell them that they're a bad person and they're a grandma killer because they're not doing what you think is correct.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know if you listened to this latest podcast with Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. Um, it was so good. Peterson was talking about the way tyranny springs about, and he said it's when someone decides that their idea. So he said what they do is they bring an extreme situation to the present day. So like global warming. Oh, global warming is going to destroy all of us. So they bring this idea to the present day, and then they tell you you have to live your life in this way to prevent this outcome. But he says they diminish all the other priorities in life to this one thing until you must follow your life for that one thing. And if you don't, you're the problem. So they
Mhm.
like give you no escape for that idea, and then they force you to go along with it.
Yep.
And I was like, man, that's so genius just of a way to describe what tyranny is. But yeah, that's what code was. They were like saying, oh, if you don't do these things, then you're doing this. It's like, well,
COVID
no.
was a global test in compliance.
Yep. Yep. That's what it was.
And I learned very early on who was going to be compliant in my friends and family and who was not. And the ones who were compliant, I just didn't have conversations with like that because there's no point. You're not going to change their mind. Even with everything coming out now that the vaccines weren't actually vaccines,
Hmm.
that they're causing cancers to emerge, they're causing heart problems, they're causing all of these things. They cause so many deaths. And you have doctors that were working with the vaccines or doctors that were seeing deaths from the vaccines actually coming out and speaking out against them. And the vaccine makers are coming out and actually saying, oh, yeah, well, this is what we were actually doing. This is what it actually does. Oops, my bad.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that reminds me of this other podcast Rogan had of this lady named Dr. Suzanne Humphreys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, she's so good. Um, so thankfully my mom raised us with no vaccines ever. She was like, these things aren't good. I'm so grateful she did that. Um, but she was talking about like what they've been finding, like nicotine will help prevent certain effects from the vaccine. And she said it helps mitigate the snake venom. I was like, what? They put snake venom in the vaccines.
And mRNA
I was
in
like,
every vaccine.
holy cow, like
Yeah,
I mean, and the thing was like I knew like how bad vaccines were for your health, but I didn't really know where they came from. So
right.
I started reading her book called Dissolving Illusions. So good. Um, but yeah, like the first forms of inoculation back in the day had really high death rates.
Yeah,
And she goes through all the medical journals of doctors through when it first introduced and all those bad diseases were around. And the medical doctors found that it was just hygiene, good nutrition, and healthy environments that reduced health problems and then cured these diseases. And they also showed that wherever there was the highest places of vaccines was the spots where they had the most disease.
yep. Because good nutrition and proper hygiene are the biggest things that people need. Throw a little activity in there and you're fine. You're going to be pretty healthy.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like our bodies generally know how to protect themselves. It's
Yes.
just our sicknesses is just the overloading of toxins.
Yes.
So it's like, well, if you're in a moldy environment, so now you got respiratory, body's fighting that. If you're eating bad food, your body has to clear that.
Yep.
If you're around, yeah, just like, in a toxic space, smelling bad smells, bad cleaning solutions, all these things,
And then you're
it
not
adds up.
active on top of it. And it's just
Yeah,
allowing all of these toxins to accumulate in your body.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
you can't figure out why you're sick. It's like, oh, why don't I feel good? Look at your environment. Look at what you're doing or
Hmm.
not doing.
Yeah, someone was like, um, when you look at the plants, one's doing well, one's not doing well. What do you think of? You need to fix the soil. And it's just for us, it's like our environment is what allows us to really be healthy. Um, I heard someone say that the reason why we have so much pharmaceuticals and so much bad food is because we have guns. They have to control us somehow.
No. Um, have I'm trying to remember what app it was on. It was either Amazon Prime or HBO Max. There is a documentary that was just recently put out called Common Ground, and they're talking about regenerative, I can't say the word, farming, where they're bringing the soil back to life after it's been basically killed. And they're changing the way that they're farming and growing their crops to make sure that the soil continues to bring new life each season. And they talk about how farming and the chemical companies came through and basically changed all of ag and how things are done. And, this is how it's been for a number of years. And these farmers over here have figured out, hey, I can breathe new life back into my soil, and this is how I'm doing it. Let me share this information. And so there's more and more people sharing this information. And I'm like, that's how it's supposed to be done. Why did we get so dependent on these chemicals and these GMOs and all of these things? Because someone somewhere along the way thought it was a good idea. And it was really informative, and it really, what's the word I want? Solidified my thought process already
Hmm.
that commercial food in general is junk, regardless if it's produce or proteins, it's junk because it's all been genetically modified. They had to genetically modify it to keep pests off of it or to keep it growing when they're drowning it in Roundup. And so in that documentary, they talk about how children have high levels of lead. Breast milk had high levels, like 3,000 times the rate it should ever have of different poisons and toxins. and that the only way around it is to get back to a clean way of living where we grow our own food. We're not putting poisons on our food as it's growing. You learn to work with the earth and not against it by poisoning it and keeping pests off of it and things like that. And it was really great for my kids and I to sit and watch that because we already have been in the process for a number of years now trying to remove as much processed food as possible because I found a video online of some professor, I don't remember his name, but he was going through and testing how the food dyes that we have in our food were affecting our DNA on a molecular level. And what he found is that it's destroying and rewriting our DNA on that molecular level in negative ways. And it's causing severe behavior and health problems in anyone that has prolonged exposure to these dyes and processed foods.
Well,
And so what's really funny is um, I am halfway through my bachelor's degree, and this last semester I did a small assignment on food dyes. I didn't realize
mm,
how toxic they were. You know what they're made out of?
no.
The base ingredient is petroleum.
Uh,
The very fuel that makes, our vehicles run, that's the base ingredient for these food dyes.
that
And
explains a
now,
lot.
right? And so now you have what's his name? Mr. Kennedy going through the FDA and banning all of these artificial dyes. And I see people freaking out in communities that have major food allergies because it's going to cause more food allergies. And I'm thinking to myself, do you not like I understand the concern for your child. I do because I have a child with type 1 diabetes and she also has food allergies, and that was my biggest concern with a lot of things is her food allergies because peanuts and tree nuts are literally cross-contaminated in everything in the market. It's god awful. um, but these parents are concerned that some of the vegetables and other natural ways to color foods are going to trigger more allergies. And I'm really confused on how this works because if you're removing a toxin from your child's diet and putting them on all natural things, how does that trigger an autoimmune response in a food allergy or in anything else that your child is having to experience with food?
Yeah, I don't think that would.
I mean, it's very possible. I'm not a scientist. I don't know, but I would be curious to see if that was a thing and how that worked and maybe how it could be mitigated so these parents aren't stressing about how they're going to feed their kids.
Well, that's kind of interesting that they think natural is gonna make it worse. That's kind of
That's what I
biz-
thought too.
yeah. I mean, um, so I'm doing a thing. It's like a mineral balancing protocol.
Mhm,
It's actually built off the idea of revitalizing the soil, like how the agronomists figured out how minerals work together. It's really
mhm,
cool. But it's just really simple. Just taking your simple vitamins. Because you have like your main four: sodium, potassium, uh, sodium, potassium, magnesium. I'm forgetting what the last one is. But you get those four regulated, and
mhm.
then that will mitigate and eliminate most health problems. It's crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, so it's kind of bizarre that people think that going, well, I guess that's the same reason they think that pharmaceuticals are a good idea, because
Yeah.
those are all petroleum based as well.
Yep.
Um, hmm. Yeah, it's kind of sad that they're programmed that bad to think natural's bad for you. Well, it's also another thing. I feel like it kind of goes in the same vein of people think if it's green, sustainable, it's good for you. So you have vegans. It's like, well,
Right. Oh my gosh. I could, oh.
that's not a good idea.
the the green sustainable label, if you will, um, you know, solar, wind powered, all of the things, right? Okay. Those wind turbines, what happens to them when they crap out and they're dead? They get drug off to a field somewhere and they're left there to not rot, but leak contaminants into that field. And so, where's all of your green, solar, all of the good things for the environment now?
They also
Didn't
kill
think
all
that
the
far ahead,
birds.
huh? The
No.
batteries for your Tesla vehicles that you think are great and everything needs to be electric, you have to mine the ingredients for that battery. I think it's cobalt. You're destroying the environment just to get that. So tell me again how your electric vehicle is more environmentally friendly.
Yeah. Well, that covers another box of are you familiar with Patrick Bet David?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you like him. He's a really big conservative guy. He runs a podcast called the PBD Podcast. Um, and he did an episode on this thing. I think it's called the National Securities Act. It came out in 1951. Um, but in there, since that has come out, 6,000 patents for energy have been revoked because it labeled anything as potential for energy generation outside the parameters of government laid as a national security threat. So all these inventions that people have been coming up with, like to figure out ways to actually make stuff work, have all been taken away. Like there was this one gentleman in the 70s that made a car that could run on water.
I grew up hearing about that. Not only did his patent disappear, so did he.
He disappeared. Almost all these people disappear.
Yep.
They all have the same story. I actually know a friend of mine, her uncle made a really advanced power device and he disappeared. Just, none of her family knows what happened to him.
So
That it
sad.
was like her uncle that it happened to. Um, and my grandpa was a patent lawyer,
Hmm.
and he patented quite a few things. He was the guy that patented the aerosol can. Kind of crazy,
Nice.
but it's just wild to hear about your stories of your past. But um, he patented a carburetor that could get a car to 60 miles per gallon back in the 60s, and yeah, a company bought it up and shelved the idea. So it's like all these potential things can happen. I think it's part of like the widespread force of control. It's like they only give you enough to survive and keep the machine running. If you could actually thrive, then they lose their power.
Exactly. We have too
Everything.
much government.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Did you see that thing that came out? It was, I think, let me see if I get this right. It was over 17 million employees work for the government. 17 million Americans work for the government. And 2 million alone of that was just for the Department of Education.
Which is a joke because the Department of Education has tanked our education in this country on purpose. The successful dumbing down of our latest generations just blows my mind. The fact that we used to teach Latin in elementary and middle school, and now it's not in schools at all
Yeah,
blows my mind. They keep now they're trying to change math. Math has been the same for centuries. And now all of a sudden we're going to change math. Tell me how math changes.
I know. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like they just want to teach you enough to be their worker bees, essentially.
Exactly. That's what college is for, and that's what public schools are for, to teach young people to sit where they're supposed to be for 8 hours a day. You sit there, you do your work, and when you graduate, you can either go to college or you can go get a job because now we know that for 8 hours a day, you can sit in a position and do what you're told and not question it.
Yep, yep.
I was a terrible student, let me tell you.
Yeah, I wasn't the greatest either. Ah, no, it's kind of crazy. And then it's like if you think about the things you remember the most, um, there's this cool guy. I don't know if you might have heard of him. Uh, Jim Quick. Have you heard of him?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. Um, I was reading his book and took some of his courses, and he was saying that we attach information to emotion.
Yeah.
So he said that when you're learning something, you have to have some emotional state that you want to have again in order to remember the thing. Um, so he said, like, what's the emotion we experience in school? Boredom. It's like no one wants to be bored, so why are they going to remember that information?
Right.
So, and it's kind of like they just feed it into you, and then you have to spit it back out in order to like pass their
It's
assessment.
just memorization.
Yeah, it's memorization without understanding.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So it's like if you I wonder like what would actually be the best way to teach things because it's like usually at least for guys we remember stuff that we do physically,
Hands-on, visual
hands-on,
learner as well.
visual.
I always learn better doing and seeing than reading and trying to comprehend. Like I can read it and understand it, but until I see it applied, it doesn't fully click what it is that is being asked.
Yeah.
And to maybe all of my kids, but at least two of my kids are very similar.
Hmm.
You can give them an explanation, but unless you're showing them exactly how to do it and how you want it done, they don't really understand what it is that you're telling them. And so they'll do what you're asking, but it may not be to the exact letter that you were expecting them to be able to complete it. And so in my mind, I will explain it to them and then I'll show them, look, this is how I would like you to do this. Can you do A, B, C, and D? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's easy, mom. And it's done and there's no issues.
Hmm.
And this applies to their schoolwork. This applies to chores around the house. This applies to chores outside when we're redoing fencing. We were just messing with the fencing for the horses a couple days ago. And I made the mistake of having my 14-year-old help pick up some of the hot wire, and I didn't tell her to make sure it doesn't get knotted up because I was going to use it. I just said I'm going to use it again.
Hmm.
Now it's a giant rat nest that we have to unknot.
Oh.
And we were out there until 9 o'clock at night trying to get that thing unknotted before I just said, you know what? The top wire's on there. It's fine. We'll have to come back. I'm super frustrated. It's dark out. I'm not going to keep doing this. And we put everything away and came inside, and we'll have to go out later today and make sure that everything is unknotted. And it's going to take several hours because it's she did a really good job.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing too. It's like I think there's kind of that also pampering is maybe the right word, where you can't let anyone ever fail. So like they get rid of
Coddling
coddling, yeah, where like they eliminate trophy systems, you know? So it's like
was
they
the worst implementation of let's help everybody feel successful that there ever was.
right. And I think it's part of like living in a fallen world of understanding there is failure. So if a kid can never fail,
They can't learn.
then they can't learn and they also now have no story.
Yeah.
The it's like every movie you watch that you want to watch has a failure in it because you're trying to understand how you overcome. It's
Yes.
like and yeah, it's like no one would watch football if it's just an offense.
Right. And that's the biggest thing is that nobody has to overcome anything anymore. Everything is just handed to everybody like, oh, let's create equity for everything. First of all, that's not how life works. Life is not
No.
fair, and you can't just divvy things out fairly because you think other people should have access to stuff. Okay. They do have access. They choose not to do the required tasks to get access. That's the
Right.
difference.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's it 100%. And that's kind of I think what God places in these circumstances is like he's trying to show us not not only the value of life, but yeah, like how you cooperate with other people for good things. And
Yeah.
so it's like if you eliminate the potential for failure, you also eliminate the potential that you won't necessarily win always. And then yeah, it's like if you eliminate failure, you eliminate almost all the other good things in life automatically because you now don't have the risk of getting those things.
Yeah, and the
That's
biggest thing is the opportunity to learn something about yourself. How do
yeah,
you
that
handle
too.
that failure? How do you handle that missed opportunity that you thought you were going to get? Are you going to grow and rise above, or are you going to sit and pout and be a victim?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's like Ed Mylett said this once. He was like, um, the difference between champions and other people isn't that the other people never get up. It's just they don't get up as fast as champions.
Yeah,
Like that's so good. Oh,
it's okay to fall down. It's okay to start over. Um,
mm-hmm.
who was it? There was a woman entrepreneur. She had to start over multiple times in her life, and she wasn't successful until she was in her 70s.
Wow.
But the key takeaway is she didn't stop. She just kept finding different ways to try. And with every mistake she learned, okay, this is what I have to tweak. This is what I have to change to be better, to do better. And she
Mm-hmm.
just kept going. And I think that mindset has been lost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like people look at Ed Milet or Andy Frisella and they're like, well, oh, you were lucky and that's how you got successful. No. Do you know Ed Milet's origin story? Do you know Andy Frisella's origin story? I promise you, they came from nothing. They were not
Right.
lucky.
No.
They worked their butts off to get to where they are.
Yeah. I know, like Andy's story of like him getting stabbed. That was crazy. And like
In
he
the
and his fr
face, yeah,
yeah. And then he is and his friend didn't make any money with their supplement store for like 10 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
No money, no paycheck, slept on a mattress on the floor.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, and then Milet got his water turned off and then yeah. I don't know, that's the thing. It's like you hear but the thing is like we wouldn't want to hear their story unless that happened to them. If you hear a story of like, oh, everything was given to them, like a Prince Harry, you're like, ew.
Yeah,
You know,
a
like
story without some sort of adversity and overcoming that adversity so that you are a better person, regardless of how successful you are. At the end of the day, it's about being a better person. And if
mhm.
that adversity helps build you up and make you a better person, that's the goal at the end of the day. You want to be
Yeah,
a better person.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's like what Milet talks about, like you want to raise your identity and that's the content of your character. It's like
Yes.
that's how you show up, no matter what you're doing. That shows your true self, and that's like I think why I think that highlights a lot of why people that have are famous or whatever, and they maybe got it too easy or they did something wrong to get it, and they feel empty inside is because they aren't happy with how they themselves acted. And so it's like if you have that self-respect of just how you act every day, um, like you can be happy with who you are, that will then be the foundation upon everything else that you can enjoy. And now you can actually enjoy those things because you know that it's actually good and there was something good about it that you did for it. Because it's like, um, I heard this was so good from Alex Harmozy. He was
I love
talking about,
Alex. Him and his wife have such amazing things that they just put out. They're so great.
yeah, I'm just blown away by that guy.
Yeah.
I feel relate with him a lot too, because he's just like, yeah, no, like, it's hard.
He's just he's like Ed Milet and Andy Frisella. They're just super down to earth. It doesn't matter how many successes they've had. It's the failures that keeps them grounded, and they're okay with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, and this thing like totally changed my mindset on something. Harmozy was like, he says, you don't deserve something. If you think you deserve it, then you think you're entitled to it, so then you don't think you need to work for it.
Yep.
And then he says, when you do get it, you think you deserve it, you won't be grateful.
Yep.
So he's like, you shouldn't feel like you deserve anything. You should feel like you have to like be responsible enough to earn it. And
Yeah.
then, or if it's given to you, to have the gratitude to acknowledge how much it was to give you that thing. I just was like, man, that's so good. Thank you,
Yeah,
Alex.
absolutely. I mean, a great example of that for me in my life, how it's been applied for me, is as that civilian federal worker on the military installation I was working on, I got an award for something that I told them I didn't want an award for. I didn't want to be recognized. I found something that I could improve on and tested it myself before I brought it to them and said, hey, look, um, I found a hole over here. Here's how I think we can fix it. Here's how I've shown it works. And they're like, oh, yes, share that with the other people in your field. Let's implement this. Let's get this going. And they gave me a certificate of appreciation that's basically a high award for the year for the civilians. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I found something that wasn't working, figured out a way to make it work, and shared it with my peers so that we could process the information we needed to in a manner that was not only more beneficial to us, but it also was updating and was readily available when we needed it because it was a live document.
Mm.
I didn't need to go up in front of all of us in the next meeting and have them go, oh, look at Sarah, she's great, she did all of this, you can thank her. I don't want that. I'm cool with being behind the scenes. Someone else can take the credit for it. I don't want it. I've never liked being um I don't know, put on the spot, I guess, like that. I don't even know what to describe. I just, it makes
Yeah,
me uncomfortable.
I know what you mean. It's like, like, cause yeah, it's like the recognition wasn't the point of why you did the thing. So it's like you don't
Exactly.
want that to be the reward.
No.
So you want
The point of why
yeah,
I did it was to help, one, with the information that I found a hole in, and two, help my peers fix their information holes as well.
yeah, yeah.
And that kind of relates to what I'm doing now with trying to help more veterans and people who are not in the veteran community protect their families with the different types of financial products that are available. And it is so rewarding to me when I explain how one of our products can help someone or help their family in the different ways that they help. And you see that realization come over their face like, oh my gosh, not only is this affordable, this is real and can help us.
Hmm.
This is amazing. Why aren't we told this is a thing?
Yeah.
Which is kind of the reaction that I had. I had a little bit different reaction. I was angry because I felt like
Oh yeah.
we're behind in planning for our kids and getting their financial set up for them when they became adults.
Right. I know. Isn't that the hardest thing when you find out that there is a better way the whole time and no one told you?
Yeah, it's a very well kept
Yeah.
secret, and it's frustrating because you have people who, like my husband and myself, we come from not very much. And we both joined the military and we started out with a whole lot of nothing and we have built to what we are now. And when I started this field a couple of years ago and learned about this, it was like a kick in the teeth. Like, oh, everything that we've been building doesn't amount to anything when now that I know that these products are out there and I could have been so much further ahead for our children when they become adults and they're ready to go into the world.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder why the time delay is there. Like, at least for me, like getting on the mineral balancing, I've been doing other things too, like red light therapy, getting like a Berkey water filter, all these things, because I felt so bad after college. I was like, I don't know what happened to me. Like, I was just on the couch for like every weekend trying to find a way to recover so I
Oh
could work the
no.
next week. It was bad, like 2 years
Oh
of that.
yeah.
So you're just like, oh, and then you find out that it was all nutrition, and you're like, oh, because I grew up on really good food. I just didn't realize the value of it until I didn't have it. And then, like, I think I just powered through college and I was like, okay, because it's like when you get in a zone, your mind can kind of take over a lot of things and you don't feel bad.
Yep, mind over
Um,
matter. Use it all the time.
yeah. So, but yeah, like now I'm like, man, why did it take so long to learn about this? But I guess everything has its time and place for a reason. But, um, Yeah, would you want to share for the people listening, like how they could find out more about what you do and how they could potentially um, find those products that you're offering?
Yeah, so I currently work with Global Financial Impact or GFI. We're all over Instagram and LinkedIn, so you can definitely find someone who is in your area. And if not, they can reach out to me um, on LinkedIn or Instagram, or my email is sroundtree.fp@gmail.com. And what we do are a couple of different things, but a lot of it is based in life insurance. And what people don't realize is life insurance is meant to be used while you're alive.
Hmm.
And so the way that we're able to help is a lot of the companies that we work with, we have over 25 Fortune 500 companies that we are in partnership with. And they allow us to go through and find the best rates and the best products for each individual client and what their specific needs are so that we can build a policy that's going to work for them. And a lot of them have cash accumulation accounts attached to them. It's called an IUL or an index universal life. I've seen a lot of negative information about IULs out there, and it's usually from people who don't really understand all of the aspects of how great they are. Um, you can attach things like accidental death. So, say my husband was out working in the yard and there was some horrific accident that takes him from the children and I, he would be covered for that.
Hmm.
Additionally, into what his death benefit would be. There's also a cash accumulation account, as I said, that grows off of the interest in the market, but we mirror the market. We don't play in the actual market. So that really allows us to take advantage of the safety net that these companies allow us to have. And so when the market takes a crash, and everybody's 401k and everybody's investment is nosediving with the market, these companies allow us to just take a zero and they protect us from that crash. And so when the market starts rising, we immediately get to rise again versus having to recover from the losses first.
Hmm.
And so that
Interesting.
cash accumulation grows in conjunction with your death benefit over the years. And when you pass away, your family gets that death benefit and that cash accumulation account, which you can build up to over $1 million, depending on how much you're putting into it each month. And you can have multiple. You can have one for yourself, your spouse, one for your children. I highly recommend them for your children because they're better than a 529 program, which the 529 covers colleges and universities. But what if you have a kid that grows up and says, I don't want to go to college. I want to start a business. I want to buy a house. I want to buy a car. I want to go to a trade school. 529s don't cover that.
Oh,
Ours
dang,
do.
that's really cool.
And you can get something in place for your kid at 15 days of life. As soon as they have a social security number, we can set something up.
Wow.
And for anyone who's in their 40s, like I am, it's never too late to pull that 401k out of the stock market and move it into a product like this so it's safer and you can actually plan for your retirement. Because my biggest thing is if your 401k is in a stock market and you don't know what the balance is going to be tomorrow, how do you expect to plan for your retirement 20 or 30 years down the road?
Hmm.
There's no way you can. On top of that, it was designed by someone who his intentions for the 401k were not what it has become now. It was never supposed to be your sole way of living once you left the job market. It was built
Uh,
and intended to work incongruent with other things like annuities, other types of investments, and things like that. It was never meant to be the sole thing that you survived on. And for the people that are like, oh, I have Social Security, I'll be fine. Social Security is supposed to be run out of funding by 2032.
Yeah, and how much do they even get you? It's like a third of your income before it's taxed.
It's
Crazy.
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 401ks are heavily taxed also. So you're putting money in, maybe your employer is matching what you're putting in. So not only are you combating the stock market, you have to pay taxes on the back end when you go and start drawing on it because they're treating it like it's an income.
Yeah.
Or you can have this IUL, you've paid all of your taxes up front because it's taxed money you're putting into it. So when you go to draw it out, it's tax free.
That's really cool.
It's also protected from probate, so nobody can come in and go, oh, that's my money. We're going to court. No, sir. Sorry, that's not how that
Oh,
works.
wow. Huh. That's really interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that. Well, it was a delight to have you on today, Sarah. Thank you for sharing all of that. I hope people can get in contact with you or GFI and see what they could do for their own financial help. Um, but yeah, it was great chatting about um, all the different topics and ideas, and hopefully we can do it again sometime. And thank you again.
Absolutely. I enjoyed our conversation and I would be happy to come back and visit with you again.
Yeah, it's neat to find other people in the same mental space because sometimes it's easy to feel. I think everyone does this, but we all feel alone sometimes. Like so,
Yeah,
it's nice
I
to
think,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I think it's really easy for people nowadays to get stuck in their head
Yeah.
and sometimes allow that negative thought process to overtake everything else and overshadow everything else. And I think we have to stop and remember we're not alone. There are
Hmm.
other people going through similar struggles, maybe not the exact same thing, but something similar, and can relate to, a lot of the emotions that we're feeling and experiencing through life. And it's okay to not be okay sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that the truth? No, I totally agree, and that's kind of like the one of the reasons I like the podcast is just to share conversations with people because I think a lot of this is what I admire about Rogan is that he just talks to people. And
Hmm.
so you learn about their lives or stories. It's fun to listen to. Um, and it's not like he's doing it to try to like grab your attention. Like everything on
Just have
YouTube
a
is just like,
conversation. Yeah.
it's like,
Yep.
well, maybe we should just chat about stuff, see what you think, see
Yeah.
what people think, and then, maybe it helps somebody, maybe it doesn't, but at least now you're bringing words to ideas, which does so much for everyone's own understanding, but then just also making a place where ideas can be shared and not fought about and things. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again, Sarah.
Thank you.